Welcome to part 2 of identifying Northern Soul originals against the counterfeit fraudulent ones. Today we're going to talk about Joe Douglas on Playhouse, we're going to talk about Mella Williams on Modern, we're going to talk about Susan Coleman, Age of the Wolf on Remix, and we're also going to talk about Little Eddie Taylor on Peacock. Today I'm going to cover these and try and help you identify what's going on. Okay, the first one we're going to talk about is Susan Coleman, Age of the Wolf. Okay, that's an original. That's what I call a counterfeit because it's the exact replica of the original, and this is what I call a bootleg because it's obviously not the same as the original, as you can see. Okay, so let's talk about the original. It has a Nashville Matrix stamp into the dead wax, which I hope you can see. It's just up there at the top there. Now anybody who tells you the Nashville Matrix stamp is just above the R on the remix is not correct, because all these labels go on at different angles. As you can see, that angle there, turn it around, it's totally different. So that is not an indication of an original. An original is that the Nashville Matrix is there. This label can be different, it can go on different, so that is no indication of an original. What is an indication of original is a nicely cut in Nashville Matrix. Now then, as with, you will see a pattern evolving today on these counterfeits and bootlegs. We'll just put that on the dance set. Here's the counterfeit. Again, it has a Nashville Matrix, but it's a poor replica. In fact, it's faint, to say the least. In fact, I can hardly see it, but I know it's there. Yeah, there it is. Look, little faint scratching in just there. I can hardly see it. I've got to angle it in the light. It's a fake Nashville Matrix. The other one is nice and firmly cut in. This is so faint you can hardly see it. Now then, you've seen me do this before. This is a counterfeit done at the same place as the Gloria Jones we did the other week, and we can go tiny kangaroo down, sport tiny kangaroo down with this one. That's a counterfeit done with 70s plastic and isn't very convincing once you've seen the original. This one is a bootleg of that one. This was done to meet demand. Totally different vinyl, a little bit flexible but a little bit thicker than the other one, and as you can see the logo at the top is totally different, okay, as in size. So that's the Susan Coleman counterfeit, original and bootleg covered. The next three I've brought into today's discussion are records that I know have recently been tried to be passed off as originals, or people have unfortunately bought them as originals only to find out they're bootlegs. So these ones are quite important, and we'll try and get them out of the way. Here's the original Joe Douglas, quite a rare record, great double-sider and currently very sought after. This original has Virtue in the dead wax, and there's a 3-turn dead wax which also has Lou Caldwell signature lightly cut into the dead wax in between the second and third one. Here's a counterfeit which I know was recently sold as an original. We have again Virtue in the dead wax, which is not the neat and tidy Virtue that is in that. It's a lightly scratched, quite large Virtue, and it also has in the dead wax a very, very faint Lou Cordwell, which is hardly readable. It's very, very faint. But the proof in the pudding again, this was done at the same pressing pattern as most of these counterfeits by the same person. And again we've got a tiny kangaroo down sport effect. And as you can see, the definition between these two, rich blue, a thin blue, and the text is not good, especially around the A area where there's that tiny gap at the top there, which is more like a pinprick. On this one it is a definite A, and if you get the two together, it's blatant which one's a counterfeit. If you haven't got the two together, that could be passed off as an original. But don't want you to do this at home, folks, but as you can see, counterfeit from the same source. If you want to know the dead wax widths on these, it's all in the guide. Okay? Actually, the dead wax width is larger on the original than what it is on the counterfeit. So that's Joe Douglas done. The next one, which I've recently seen tried to pass off as original, is this absolutely beautiful totally mint, unplayed Little Eddie Taylor, I Had a Good Time on Peacock. That's an authentic original. To actually counterfeit that label is not going to be easy. There's so much colour in there, so much design, it's liable to be blurred. So what we have here is a nicely defined LRS 1165-RE2. RE doesn't stand for reissue. RE2 in the dead wax, and as you can see, that's beautiful. What people have tried to pass off recently, to my astonishment, is a bootleg that was done on a plain label, and people are trying to pass that off as a test press. It is not, it's a bootleg. And if you look in the dead wax, the dead wax number on there is UV 1165 with a little 2 in a circle. That's a counterfeit, and if you no way I would ever bend that Peacock one. If we want to do it again, we've got a nice tiny kangaroo down sport, tiny kangaroo down. That's a counterfeit. Well, it's not a counterfeit, it's an actual, it's a bootleg that was tried to pass off as a test press. It is not a test press, it's a bootleg from round about 1977, so do not buy that as a test press. Leaving us the last one, which shows the ingenuity of people who counterfeit records. There is a Mel Williams promo original, 2 little X's on the label. It also comes without X's because we have one at the moment, and it's got a very, very narrow dead wax, MM-1023-1, and you can see the definition of that. Okay, now the way that we validate originals and counterfeits, here's the stock copy, which is exactly the same width dead wax. That's a mint unplayed copy, and as you can see, that's the standard press, come off the same master plate as that, so they are identical matrix and dead wax widths. If you want to know the dead wax widths, it's all in this book here. Okay, now then, here, how ingenious is this? What you do is a counterfeit, and then you make it look like it's an original by crossing out all the text for the promotion thing. As you can see, That's what it would have said. Promotional copy not for sale, plug side. The person who did this counterfeit obviously knew it was a counterfeit because he crossed these off to try and give it validity. It also has a little sticker there, little sticker residue mark, and has 112. The dead wax is a little larger, but the matrix details are much larger than the original. Very tiny writing on the original. On this one it goes MM-10251. That matrix is twice as big as the one in the original. And again, just to prove my point, let's do a Rolf Harris impression. Tiny kangaroo down, boy. And don't try this at home because I did break one the other day trying to show off. But this is a counterfeit. So do check on these, because for me to do YouTube videos telling you what to look for and what to check, there are so many in here. I'm going to be 86 by the time it's all finished. So here it is, the Manship latest information guide, and it's absolutely, there's hundreds and hundreds of Northern Soul counterfeits that are being sold as originals, and you'll find all the info in here. And we've took 20 years to put this together so that people don't buy valueless records thinking they're originals. The 4 records we talked about today are all documented in this book, along with hundreds and hundreds of others. If you require to know the exact dead wax widths, how many turns the dead wax is of the originals and the counterfeits, it's all documented in here in this 1026 page document book covering everything to do with Rare Soul, including hundreds of nice pictures and biographies. It weighs nearly 4 kilos. It's £75. It's at the website now. We have very few left. We only printed 1,000. Thank you.